Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Shadow of the Erdtree. Today I'm covering how to get to plus 12 on your Shadow Realm Blessing for specifically your Scadutree Fragments. That will greatly increase your damage and reduce the damage you take while in the Land of Shadow compared to having none. Since the DLC has turned out a lot harder than people expected, that advantage before you take on, say, a major boss fight, it seems very helpful. The thing is, the fragments come from all kinds of targets. There's the special magic pot guys, the random enemies like this non-boss hippo. You find them at Miquella crosses and other themed locations. To reach plus 12 on your Scadutree Blessing though, you'll need a total of 25 fragments, which is no small number, so I'm going to show you the location of all 25, and also ideally 25 that are attainable sooner rather than later, which will all avoid facing any major boss fights too. Before we get into that though, I just want to address something. I recently made a guide with the launch of the DLC after playing a couple days before the launch thanks to Bandai and FromSoft. At the time there was no information online, and I made an error of having 9 fragments instead of 8 when I thought I had 8. I'd accidentally killed an enemy type that I was unaware even existed at that moment. The special pot enemies that can either drop fragments or ash upgrades. This happened nicely in a spot that looked like a normal item had dropped there when I circled around after killing the enemies. So I'm hoping this video as a follow-up will resolve any issues like that for you, as I've carefully checked this total and I show the total of 25 for the plus 12. It's one of those mistakes that you make after upload that's too late to fix, but obviously we've left details in the comments of that video. But with that said, let's get this video going, the plus 12 Shadow Realm Blessing Guide for your Scadutree Fragments. For your first upgrade, you just need 1 fragment, but very early at the beginning of the game when you come to the gravesite plane, you can get 3 to get to level 2 easily. From the first grace of the gravesite plane, we're going to head east and go straight to this church, the Church of Consolation. Here there's going to be a fragment drop on the ground, but actually there's 2 fragments to pick up here, which is very nice. With that, we're going to come back to the starting area, the gravesite plane, and head north. You can pass through the Scorched Ruins and pick up the grace there, run by the Furnace Golem, and bring yourself here to the first cross, the 3-path cross. Here we have 1 more fragment on the ground, bringing us to a total of 3 fragments, allowing us to reach level 2 blessing right off the bat. From this location, we're going to now head to Ballarat, this area to the northwest. This is the main road and what it looks like through this archway, and you're just going to follow this up and around until you come around to the main gate cross, where we have another Miquella cross. And yes, this is our next fragment to pick up. At this point, we're going to need another fragment for the next upgrade though. So instead of going into Ballarat, we're going to turn around and head southeast along the edge of this cliff. There's actually a passage here that leads up and up and up to this grace, the Cliff Road Terminus. And if you're looking for that yourself, this is what it looks like when you approach this cliff. As you can see, it's a little path, just a little bit shallow, but widens as we climb up and make our way to that grace. From the Cliff Road Terminus then, we're going to head southwest to this hill here. From the grace, it's just this path leading up to the center. And what you're going to find at the center is one of those magical pot guys with a pot over his head as he casts spells at you. You need to kill him and then he will drop the Scadutree fragment that we're looking for. This is where things went wrong for me in my original take. I didn't even know I'd killed him. I just sort of Asher Ward the group and he was dead there. As you see when we come around though, he's quite obvious standout, and when you run up to him, he will try to run away to escape what's coming. After you kill him though, you can pick up your next fragment, as well as a silver horn tender item. That'll bring us to 5 fragments total, ready for blessing level 3. For our next blessing level then, while we're next to it, let's go into Ballarat, because there's actually a hidden Miquella cross with a fragment that you can get. The nearest grace to get to that is this one. To get to that, you just pass through the main gate, pass through the main room, and you can't miss it. At first, you'll have this door that is closed, but when you come around and open it, you'll get a shortcut, which is an elevator, leading to where we want to go. But to quickly show you the path that you'll be taking to achieve that, I'll just do it live. So head into this main area with the fountain and turn right, heading up the stairs. As we come up the stairs, you're going to have this long road, which we're going to run all the way to the end of. As you reach the end of that main road, we're going to turn left into this room, which is kind of a storage room. We're going to run up the stairs leading outside again, which brings us to these steps that lead up. Here you'll be ambushed by this pretty strong enemy, and as you turn left, there's a broken bridge we need to go around. So instead of crossing that broken bridge, we're going to turn right and go around these kind of back alleys. These head straight through, so it shouldn't be a big issue, turning left as we get to the water, and turning right at the water to come inside another storeroom where we have a ladder that will climb up. Exiting the ladder room, we'll turn right to come upstairs and follow this a little bit higher. And instead, we're going to turn left and go downhill. As we come to this area, you can actually turn left and head down that way to unlock the elevator and the locked door for the checkpoint. But where we want to go is this way with all the little scorpions, because through this little archway is a room with 2 giant scorpions waiting in ambush. Instead of going in there though, we're actually going to look slightly right, where we've got this piled rubble. We're going to climb over that and roll into the secret room. Be wary of the fly ambush that's here. It's quite annoying. They will try to grab you. There's a couple of those in this area, but just pass through this room and the next room. And pretty hard to miss in the following final room is the Miquella cross with the Scadutree fragment that we're looking for. The thing is, we still need one more fragment to get the next blessing level, so we're going to head to the first Miquella cross, the 3-pass cross, and go northeast across this big bridge. As you approach the Grace, just here in front of it is a Marika statue that, hey, has the next fragment just laying there. With that, you've got 7 fragments ready for blessing level 4. While we're here at this Grace, the Castle Front Grace, that's going to be our next target. We're going to go into Castle Enzis. As you can see, there's another Miquella cross within, so by entering and making your way up the main path, very quickly you will make it to the Castle Enzis checkpoint and that Miquella cross, where we have another obvious fragment to pick up. Still need one more for the next upgrade though, so let's return again to the Castle Front. This time, we're going to go southeast, heading all the way down to this Grace, Pillar Path waypoint. However, instead of going all the way to that Grace, or after you've done that, you can turn this way onto this little plateau where you can see there's another Miquella cross and an NPC where we have the next fragment to pick up. This will bring us to a total of 9 fragments ready for blessing level 5, all in the first area without facing any major bosses. But still we want plus 12, not plus 5, so let's keep going. To reach the level 10 blessing level from here though, we actually only need 10 more fragments. So let's start with the Scadu Altus region, which is where I'm standing now. If for some reason you have not reached this region, do note that you can defeat the final boss of Castle Enzis to pass through here, or from the Castle Front Grace, you can follow this road, go down these rocks, cross this water, and follow this route along the edge here until you come to a spirit spring you must unlock by breaking a rock in the same area, then taking the spirit spring jumps up to the Fort of Reprimand, and then you can leave that and you're in the region without fighting a boss. The starting point we're going to begin with is the Morth Ruins though. There's actually 2 fragments really close here. One is the cross and the Grace itself on the floor, and then there's an encampment just to our west really close. So from that Grace we're going to just sprint on over very easily. You can do this without dismounting. There is like a cookbook here that you can pick up and some items, but yeah, there's a Marika statue, you can pick it up and get on out of there. From the Morth Ruins though, we can now head west just up this hill if you need to this next Grace, the High Road Cross, another Miquella cross. Here, right at the cross, you will find yet another singular fragment to pick up. To continue on though, we're actually going to come back to the Morth Ruins because our next location is this little lake here. As it kind of curves inwards, there's actually a cave entrance here, and that's where our next fragment is. So from this Grace, you can see how we just need to run a little northeast, and you can already see the water. And as we approach the center of the lake, it'll load in, and we can see the Marika statue where our very next fragment is waiting for us to pick it up. Also, if you didn't know, you can go through this cave and it'll bring you through this passage, leading to another map fragment, the Ancient Ruins base, where the map fragment's down at the other end of that valley. From the High Road Cross, or I guess the Morth Ruins, whichever you like, you can see how there's this big military camp just in front of the Shadow Keep. Roughly about here is our next location of a fragment. I can see where I've just placed that mark from the High Road Cross, so let's just head straight in that direction. Just be wary, there is a lot of enemies in this camp, and then obviously the Furnace Golem's going to aggro on us, but as we enter the camp, you can see on my right, there is a Marika statue with an item just here that we can pick up, grab, get that fragment, and then get the hell out of there. I would recommend approaching that camp in a slower, more measured way because you definitely don't want to fight all those enemies at once. For our next location, we're going to get 2 fragments in one, which is perfect for a fast upgrade. From the High Road Cross, you can now head northwest to this church, the Church of the Crusade. You can actually see it very easily from the Cross of the Grace. We can blast by the roaming enemies outside no problem and just run inside at the center where you will find another Marika statue and the next fragments. Though you will be invaded by an enemy who when you kill, you'll get an Ash of War drop, but when he's defeated, you can head over to the fragments on the ground and pick them up. And again, you'll find that there's 2 here instead of the usual 1. From the Morth Ruins, we're actually going to head southeast because where we want to go is this hidden cross at the Scadu View Cross. There's going to be another fragment down there, but to access this location, you need to go to a spirit spring that's around this marker, which is blocked. You'll need to come around the corner here to the second marker to break that blocker, and then you can come back to the spirit spring and leap on up there. Head to the highest point of this new plateau you've just reached, and you'll see the cross and the grace in the distance, and on the ground, of course, will be our next fragment. Now, as we do need 1 more fragment for the next level blessing, I'm going to avoid taking you to the Shadow Keep as long as I can, which is just a little bit longer. So where we're going to go instead is down here. There's the blue flower area, which is the Cerulean Coast, and then above it is the red flower area, which is Chero's hidden grave. Let's start with the easy one, the Cerulean Coast, which very quickly, if you didn't know how to get to, starting at the castle front in the first region, follow this main road, road and then work your way down these rocks to the water down below. Head behind the flower to the west and you come through a cave where there's a Grace Elec River Cave. Follow the water all the way southeast. Eventually you come out here, heading further south until you hit this very Grace Cerulean Coast, which will look like this. Beautiful blue flowers. Now it's a bit hard to show on the map, but basically you're going to head west along the outer skirts of the water here until you hit the coast west Grace. Then we're going to follow through this ravine, this valley, carefully weaving our way north until we hit about here where there's a cave. Let me show you the entrance. So from the coast west Grace, ahead of me, I'm just going to run east. Between these two like massive structures is that entrance that you see, the ravine or valley, and we're going to head through there. So we just follow this through northeast until we start to see some of those blue worm types, and then we veer more north to head in the correct direction. Running mostly north, we start to veer more west, and then before we know it, we have that cave entrance that I was talking about, which, be wary, there is this ambush here with one of these former bosses of the original game. So let's just dispatch that real quick, and in the center of the cave is a fragment just waiting to be picked up. So it's a little bit hidden away, but not too hard to find. But next is the red flower field, which is above, where our next fragment is located. To be specific, you're going to need to come to this pool. The nearest Grace to that is the Charo's hidden grave. If you have not reached this location before, no problem. Head to the castle front in the first area, and we'll head southeast following this main road, where eventually you'll hit the pillar path waypoint Grace. Follow this valley of dragon statues down, and eventually you come to the end, where just here is a cave called the Dragon's Pit. You'll need to defeat this cave entirely, defeating a boss at the end, and behind the boss room it progresses to another Grace area called the Dragon's Pit Terminus. From here you just cross the bridge and you'll find a pond with dragons. Head south following the valley and you'll hit another Grace. This one's the Grand Altar of Dragon Communion, and then you can follow this down to the southwest where we enter that red flower area. Following the main section of that area, you'll find that Grace, the Charo's hidden grave. So from the Dragon Altar, as I've just said, we're just going to follow that down south to southwest, crossing over the body parts of the dragon to do so. Very quickly you'll find yourself in the right location because you've got these glowing red flowers everywhere, which will just aim west as we begin to enter this area, and dead ahead of us will be the Grace as we climb this hill ahead of us. At this point, we just need to head to the west to get to that little lake that I told you about. So let's go through this alcove and head west where I placed that marker, and I'd recommend you do the same to keep yourself on track. There are a bunch of enemies here, and even more like a special boss at night, so you can clear that out if you want to in your own time. But as we approach this area, you're going to start to get a little bit higher and higher, and then before you know it, you're actually at that little pond, that little lake that I mentioned. Here you're going to find a hippo, and it's kind of a mini boss. It doesn't have a full boss health bar, and yet when we kill it, it drops a fragment. So obviously it's worth coming here and doing that. Now we're going to return again to the Scadu Altus region, and this time we're going to enter the Shadow Keep. I want to warn you at this point that as you step in front of the Shadow Keep, an event will trigger that will progress time, as it were. All the NPCs of the world will go from phase 1, where you met them initially, to what they're doing next. If you don't want to progress the NPCs, maybe you've not met them all yet, or whatever, then don't come here until you're ready. But since we want to get level 12 on the blessing, this is a very easy way to do so, so we're coming here next. So you enter the Shadow Keep, go through the main gate, and there'll be a lift. That lift will bring you to where I'm standing at our first Grace. And in here, you'll have a boss room with another one of those hippos. This time it's an actual boss fight. The thing is, when you defeat it, you get 2 fragments. Where are we going to get the next 3? To do that, we're going to choose now to explain the Shadow Keep just a little, but we're actually not going to be fighting any bosses from this point. Just a couple mini bosses that have nothing to do with the Shadow Keep. You're going to need to access a new location though. The castle watering hole, which leads down to where our next fragment is. And then further down in this area, there's not 1, but 2 fragments that we're going to aim for. So we kick off from the main gate plaza, which we just left at, where we just left things off at our 10th level blessing. There's 2 doors. You've got one on your left, one on your right, and the one on your right will initially be closed as it's a shortcut. So you'll have to go through the room on the left. This will bring you around this section of the castle until you come up onto this high bridge here. As we cross this high bridge, you'll note that there's a big ramp leading down, which is that shortcut door we just mentioned. So with that now open and you've got access to the Grace, we'll go through the shortcut door we've just opened and head on past these enemies that are waiting for us as an indicator. Now at the top of that ramp, we're going to turn right this time instead of the way we came from, which was on our left. And at the other end here, on my left side here, you're going to see a body on the ground and a very convenient looking ladder. So let's drop down there. At the bottom of this ladder, we're going to see a lot of water, which is creating a sort of waterfall that hides an entrance. So let's go in there and down another ladder. At the bottom of this ladder, we find ourselves in a sewer area, and as we enter this room, we find a painting. But more important to that, on our right is this suspicious looking wall, which when you attack or roll into, reveals that it was actually an illusion wall, which brings us into another sewer area. And as we come around this corner, we find something even more suspicious, a coffin, which you can enter, which will take you to a new location. They love doing that in these games, but as you can see, it'll bring us to a new area called the Castle Watering Hole. Once you've activated the grace after leaving the room behind me, we have this watering hole area where you're going to run to the southeast. Just be careful because there's a couple of furnace golems in this area which will attack you as you cross, but you can run so quick they can't even catch you. But you aim for the south side where we have another grace that we're going to activate called the Recluse's River Upstream. So now we're at that grace that we just aimed for here. The very next fragment is down below us, but that's a lot of fall damage. We need to find a safe way to get down there. You can place a marker about here, and that's where the item's going to be. What we're going to do in terms of the map is follow this cliff edge all the way to here, where we're going to jump across and then follow it around here. At that point on the other side, you're going to see a bunch of bird golems. Just be wary as you are crossing this cliff edge part, because very suddenly it will no longer exist and you'll need to make a jump. So you see where those red bloodstains are? You definitely don't want to go too quick here. Take your time and you'll get there. So just as I mentioned, as you get to the end here, you're going to see some bird golems and this very suspicious looking building. To get there, we just go a little bit further along the edge until we can drop down safely like so, and then we can go over here and it kind of doubles back, allowing us to access that area. So let's do that. Now we've made it to this lit up area, what we're going to do is drop down a level and a level again and a level again until we get down to the water, which very quickly we have done. You don't want to keep going down because it's upstream, we're going back up north. As we have now accessed this river area, we can follow this along past a bunch of flowers, which as you can see at the end here is in a coffin, easy to pick up. There's not really any wrong way to go here. You'll find it at the end. Next, we need to get down to this area, and there's a few ways you can do that, but to keep this simple, let's go back to the first grace that we went to so we can activate the next one. So this time from the Recluse's River upstream, we're going to follow this cliff edge just like we did before, but instead of turning here, we're going to continue down and pick up this grace right here. So here we are where we dropped down before. Instead of going that way, we're going to continue down south. Careful of all the fly guys that are attacking us. We can see the grace right there, so we can activate that and get them off of us. From this point, we're actually right where we want to be. If you come to the cliff edge and look down, you're going to see a bunch of gravestones, which you can carefully drop down on or off torrent. Honestly, I did it off torrent. I think that's a lot safer, and you're just going to make your way all the way down to the bottom where the water is. Then we can head east, and as we enter this area, you're going to find not one, two of those hippo mini bosses, just like the one we showed earlier. Defeat them both and each of them will drop one Scadutree fragment. We're going to need to come to the Rao base area, starting with the Ancient Ruins base grace. If you missed it earlier or if you didn't know in general, you can start at the North Ruins in the middle of the Altus area, and then by heading northeast there's this little pond or lake with a Marika statue. You pass through a cave there, and on the other side it brings you here. You follow this around and go under this kind of natural bridge, bringing you to where I'm standing right now, the Ancient Ruins base. This down here is also where you find the map fragment of this region, and by continuing southwest you get to the water, and just on the north side of that is the Temple Town Ruins grace, where I'm going to teleport to now. From here we just need to go into this structure that's hanging about, but it's actually quite hard to find your way in when you're just looking randomly. Where you need to go to enter the Temple Town Ruins is on the south side over here, so let's head over there. So we're now approaching the south side where I just randomly placed that marker, and you can see that there's a wall on my left, a wall on my right as an indicator, and you can see there's a crack in the wall that we can just walk through and enter with. You can also still mount in here. The body that's ahead of me there hanging off the bridge is where the fragment actually is. So you just come up here, we go to the other side, we'll drop down like so, do a quick 180, double jump on torrent to get up, and there we are, we're at the body, and on that body, like I said, is the next fragment. And actually, that was the last fragment, which brings us to the end of the video. That was a total of 25 Scadutree fragments in one video, and all the locations, as well as a bunch of other advice as we went. I hope this was extensive and as detailed as you needed it to be, and if we missed anything, please let us know in the comments. Obviously, we're trying to avoid any mistakes or issues, and if this helped you, do drop a like on the video. Until next time then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.